For more on this summit, I'm joined by Brian Beary, a Washington-based journalist and contributing editor to European Affairs. Brian, welcome back.
Great to be here, Guan.
We heard about the new revelations of the Russian investigation. How do you think that might weigh in on President Trump's interactions with Putin this time around?
It makes things a little bit trickier for him because the Department of Justice indictments are a bit more specific in terms of who did what and when, and specifically Russian officials. So it makes it very difficult for him to say, well, there's no proof that there was meddling. At the same time, he's there to really just strike up a strong personal bond with President Putin. So he has to sort of juggle two very difficult, sort of a conundrum for him.
What type of personal relations do you expect to come out of those two leaders?
My prediction is we'll see a warm chemistry between the two men, simply because they both have a really strong desire to strike up a friendship with each other. And we've seen evidence of that already. I think it'll be quite different than the types of encounters we saw earlier in the week with at the NATO summit, where President Trump went out of his way almost to appear somewhat at conflict with the NATO leaders. I think a lot of positive body language I think we can expect.
But what can be the deliverables? Will there be any agreement or joint statement or declaration, or will this just be a meet and greet session for the two leaders?
I think it's more substantive than a meet and greet session. I think in the long term, what Russia would like from this is to see Russia being recognized as a statesman on the global stage. And, as we see, it's quite active in the Middle East. It also wants to sort of make its stake that in its neighborhood in Eastern Europe, that it has a right to its position needs to be acknowledged and recognized. And how President Trump responds to that will be the fascinating thing to watch, because he's under so much pressure, including from his own party, to maintain a tough line against Russia. Remember, it's only 4 years ago when Russia invaded Ukraine and took a slice of Ukraine, Crimea, and annexed it, causing major sanctions to be imposed against it. President Trump wants a very good relationship with President Putin, but he knows that he basically can't be too nice to him.
Well, finally, more broadly, if you look back at how U.S. media portrayed the U.S. Trump-Putin relationship over the past year, especially in 2017, the Trump-Russia collusion allegations have been dominating airwaves as well as cables. How do you look at it? Because some argue that they went a little bit too far.
Yes, I mean, President Trump in some ways encourages them, because it's notable in the 3 years since he's been active in politics, he has never criticized President Trump. And when you compare that to the kind of negative things he says about Chancellor Merkel or at times Prime Minister May, the contrast is really striking. However, when all the media reports about collusion keep resurfacing, it's really hard to pin down specific exchanges, knowing exchanges between Trump or his aides with Russian officials on colluding in the election or in other ways. And so I think President Trump is going to keep pointing that out and sort of try and say that it's a big witch hunt against him.
There was a meddling, apparently, but collusion or not, it's still up in the air. Thank you very much, Brian Beary, here with us in Washington studio.